60 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey.
From the Matrix Home Solutions Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer
Merry Christmas.
on AM 560,
Ho, ho, ho.
The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Martha Raddatz this week tackled the situation at the border. All of a sudden, the D.C. press corps is recognizing this problem at the border.
Wait. There's a crisis at the border?
Yeah, with Title 42 going away this week.
2 days.
With the Democrat mayor of El Paso declaring a state of emergency, which has been the state of affairs in El Paso for some time.
Did you see the pictures recently? I mean, there's people everywhere flooded on the streets, and it gets really cold at night in the desert. So they even opened up a recycling plant last night to let women and children and to try and get some warmth.
This was a fun part of the report that Raddatz did leading into her discussion with Texas Governor Greg Abbott. She talked to two migrants from South America, made their way from Colombia and Peru, I believe. Anyway, it's to remind you that people respond to incentives, that people are not dumb, and they are paying attention, in connection with their interests, and they seize an opportunity when they see one.
I spoke with two migrants who had just made the harrowing journey from Colombia and Peru.
Well, he says he knew that, that right now there's a little bit of a transition where Biden had some Trump policies still in place, but that Title 42 is about to change, so he wanted to kind of take advantage of that moment.
These men told us they came for more economic opportunity.
Yeah, they want to take advantage of the moment. I understand from their perspective why they would do that. They want to come here for more economic opportunity. I understand from their perspective why they would want to do that. Nothing against them. But that doesn't mean we just say, well, because they're sharp and because they have good intentions, that the laws don't apply, which seems to be the approach of this administration and the Democrat Socialist Party, of course, an open borders party. Raddatz queried Texas Governor Abbott about the busing of tens of thousands of migrants to sanctuary cities like our fair Windy City, as well as New York and Philadelphia and elsewhere. Here's how he responded. And pay attention how she asked the question, too.
You have used your taxpayer dollars here in Texas to bus migrants out of here. People have looked at that and said that's just a political ploy to bring attention on the backs of these migrants and some families and some very young children.
The real reason behind it is because communities like Del Rio and Eagle Pass and others, they are having thousands of people dumped off into their communities, thousands of migrants dumped off in their communities. They don't have the capability of dealing with that vast number of migrants. And I removed them to locations that self-identified as sanctuary cities that have the capability and the desire to help out these migrants. And so that's exactly what's taking place.
Yeah, and by the way, one other point that Abbott failed to make, they went voluntarily.
Exactly, and they keep putting that out of the conversation. They sign before they get on the bus. You sign a document stating that you know where you're going. You're voluntarily going to that city.
Vulnerable women and children and so forth. Well, they want to go to Chicago. They don't want to stay here where they don't have any family, for example.
And the buses are heated. They have bathrooms. They're watching movies, and they get water and food.
And as to the suggestion that the borders are porous, that's not on Joe Biden. Joe Biden doesn't say open borders. Joe Biden doesn't say the borders are open. No. That's you, Governor Abbott, claiming the borders are open. That's you, Governor DeSantis, claiming the borders are open. That's why people are coming. This is the implicit point that Raddatz attempts to make here. Listen.
I don't think I've ever heard President Biden say, we have an open border, come on over. But people I have heard say it are you, our former President Trump, or Ron DeSantis. That message reverberates in Mexico and beyond. So they do get the message that it is an open border, and smugglers use all those kinds of statements.
It was known from the time that Joe Biden got elected that Joe Biden supported open borders. It is known by the cartels who have sophisticated information whether or not the Biden administration is going to enforce the immigration laws or not. Is known across the world, but most importantly, known among the cartels.
That was such an opportunity for Greg Abbott to be so much more pointed in the direction of Raddatz than he was. I mean, what he said is fine, but
He should have shoved it down her throat.
Martha.
I mean, please, she's better than that. Stop.
No, she's not better than that. She is not better than that. That's the point. Martha. Are you that clueless? Are you that in the tank for the other side?
Yep.
You're an embarrassment. You're ridiculous. You're telling me that the reason we have this influx of migrants at the border is because of what me and Ron DeSantis are saying about the border being porous, as if word hasn't gotten back to anybody that we've had 1 million gotaways since Joe Biden was inaugurated.
And they're predicting maybe 5 million total will be have crossed the border in the last fiscal year.
If you describe reality, you're the problem. If you don't admit to reality, you're the solution. Is that your point? Because it seems to be Martha Raddatz's point and the point of the people that she works for. I'm talking about the Democrat Socialist Party, since she's part of their comm shop. How absurd. But it gets more absurd yet. Why hasn't Mr. 10%, the big guy, President Biden, why hasn't he been to the border? Well, let's ask his policy advisor, Keisha Lance Bottoms, former mayor of Atlanta, on Face the Nation yesterday.
And simply because people don't see the president at the border doesn't mean that he's not working.
Right. Well, why doesn't he go to the border? He was just in Arizona. Why wasn't it worth his time?
Well, you have to remember, Margaret, when the president travels, it's not like you or I jumping on an airplane and getting off and going to our destination. Everything comes to a halt. So all of these things are in consideration for the president. Is that the best use of resources? All of the resources that will be diverted on the ground when the president makes a visit.
Is that why he didn't go?
Is that visit... well, I can't speak to why he has or has not gone. I'm just speaking to the fact that it's a bit more disruptive for the president of the United States to travel than you or I. But what the president has done is continue to lean in on this immigration issue.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he's leaning in. Yeah, so
Doing
he
the
didn't
work.
visit because of traffic? I don't know. I was there in El Paso when Trump was there, and they managed perfectly fine after that shooting in, the Walmart where 23 people died.
He didn't want to be disruptive to the region. Like 2,500 migrants a week coming into El Paso. He didn't want to be disruptive like that. More on this and other issues. Pleased to be joined by Lieutenant Colonel Jim Carafano for our weekly conversation. He's the VP of the Catherine and Shelby Cullum Davis Institute for International Studies at the Heritage Foundation and author of the book Brutal War, Jungle Fighting in Papua New Guinea, 1942. I believe Papua New Guinea won the World Cup yesterday.
No.
No?
Argentina.
No. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I cannot believe you guys made me sit through that. I'm never talking to you ever again. My blood pressure's so. Two things. First of all, infuriating enough. Like can you imagine these people sitting around thinking about what gotcha talking points they could throw at the governor? They treat this, not just the president, but the media treats this as if this is like an earthquake or a hurricane. That this is beyond
natural disaster, right?
Joe Biden saying he's just trying to deal with the problem when this is an intentionally created problem. And here's, I think, the maybe the one epiphany or that because people talk about they want voters and everything. But here's the thing: is under existing U.S. law, controlling both houses of Congress, Joe Biden legally could have brought in millions of aliens. Millions. I mean, he could have gotten anything through Congress. He could have had an infinite cap, and he could have brought them all here legally. Why didn't he do that? And so it's more about just bringing people here. And it's more about, when we say open borders, we just say, well, he's not enforcing the law, but it's more than that. I mean, if you look at the agenda that George Soros and you know me, I'm the last person to talk about conspiracy theories, but sometimes people talk about conspiracy theories because people are conspiring against us. The notion of borders and the idea that people should have a right to migrate anywhere they want to in the world, and that wherever they want to go, the people that are there have a human obligation to give them everything they want. This is the world order that they want. So it's not just about, I don't like border security and I don't like immigration. I don't like immigration laws. I don't like any requirements on immigration. And I like, and eventually it'll get to the point where the United States can't manage this. And so essentially the world is going to have to take over and manage all our resources and all our people. I know this sounds incredibly bizarre, but 10 years ago, would you think that we'd be sitting around and having a discussion about whether men can participate in women's sports or whether we should have, 26 bathrooms for each individual gender?
Right.
This is a purposeful action designed to a much, much larger plan that, we don't like what Trump did, so we're going to do the opposite. And people have to wrap their heads around that. They're trying to destroy American sovereignty, destroy the American economy, and transform how the world works.
But is Mexico?
And if you're okay with that, then keep voting for these guys.
Sorry for interrupting, but we learned yesterday, and I used to live in El Paso, and I called a friend down there. There's reports that the Mexican officials are busing people to our border. They're not, they're assisting them to get here. So are they working with us or against us, or what's happening?
Well, Mexico's being overloaded.
Oh.
I mean, they want to get rid of these people. I mean, they can't even handle this mess. And you know what? At least if the government throws them at the border, then the cartels aren't making money off of them.
Oh,
it's just nuts. We have created the world's largest human trafficking network, and we have done it all with U.S. tax dollars. We just did a project where we bought a bunch of cell phone data because it's publicly available, and we tracked all the major non-governmental organizations like Catholic Charities and other, which are essentially getting paid by the U.S. government to run this human trafficking network, and they are making tons of money off of this. They are making boatloads of money. This is a cash cow for them.
Yeah, we talked about that last week with Mark Morgan, actually, and amid the call by Abbott for DOJ to investigate these NGOs that are essentially engaged in, as you said, human smuggling.
And they're making a profit. This is not this is not some moral thing that they're actually doing a social good here. All they're doing is moving people for the U.S. government and making a profit out of it, and we're paying for it. As much as it's going to cost to secure the border and evict tens of millions of illegal aliens from the United States, it will still be cheaper than what we're doing now.
And I should correct myself. Ken Paxton, the Attorney General in Texas, is opening an investigation at the behest of Greg Abbott. But there's also calls for this investigation to be done writ large, since it's the federal government that's underwriting these NGOs who are engaged in facilitating criminal activity, people coming into this country illegally. It's unbelievable.
NGOs, their profit margins are bigger than many American industries. I mean, they take so much off the top to do this. These goodwill things. And then I'm sure if you're an NGO saying, okay, all right, so we're bringing in millions of illegal aliens and we're making a massive profit off of this because all we're doing is giving them a bus and a bottle of water, and the U.S. government's giving us gobs of money, but we'll take that money and we'll do good elsewhere. Well, this is like, the mafia, giving money to the Catholic Church. This is not, this is destroying who we are. It's taking nonprofit organizations, which are supposed to be there to help people, and using them as an instrument of the government, and then making them dependent on the government, and then actually out advocating for the government policy of open borders because they're profiting by it.
Well, I mean, this can't come as a surprise. I mean, maybe the depths of it, but I mean, you have like the base of the Democrat Socialist Party for the last several years was talking about defunding CBP at the same time they were talking about defunding the police nationally.
I mean, when you think about how we have how this beta had been transformed, and how really how the left really is just gaslighting everybody. Because remember, it started out where, oh, well, okay, we're for the border too, but we want amnesty and whatever. And they kept, but the reality, they were never for any of this stuff. And the more power, and the interesting is there's a direct line between how reasonable they sound with how much power they have. Under Bush, when they controlled neither party of Congress, and they didn't control the presidency, they were, we just want, we want a secure border, we just want an amnesty, and then we'll be happy. And now, the more political power they get, the more extreme their demands are. It's the same thing. Well, we just want everybody to be treated the same, and then it becomes, no, we actually want some people to be elevated over others and to get reparations because we think they've done. And it just gets more and more radical the more and more power they get. And this is the problem I have with conservatives, because we're reasonable people. And somebody says something like, "Well, social justice." I'm like, "Who doesn't want to be social? And who doesn't want to be just?" That doesn't sound so bad, but it is their bottom line. And again, I don't come to this position lightly. But when you see these yahoos and the World Economic Forum get up and talk about one world and one government, this perfect socialist paradise, this is what our government is actually trying to accomplish. This is what the left actually wants.
I wanted to get your reaction to one other topic, and that's the proposed banning of TikTok. I know there's the move to ban it from the devices of federal employees, but Mike Gallagher, who's Republican from Wisconsin, and Rubio, Senator from Florida, are looking to ban TikTok altogether in this country. Gallagher was on with Jake Tapper yesterday making the case. Here's what he said.
The editor-in-chief of ByteDance, for example, is a CCP secretary and has talked about making sure all product lines, all business lines follow appropriate political control. So the question we have to ask is whether we want to give the CCP the ability to track our location, track what websites we visit, even when we're not using the TikTok app itself. And increasingly, since a large percentage of young Americans use TikTok to get their news, whether we want them to have the ability to selectively edit that news. It's as if in 1958, given that TikTok is on the cusp of becoming the most powerful media company in America, we would have allowed the KGB and Pravda to buy the New York Times, the Chicago Tribune, the Washington Post, all combined. I think this is a bad idea.
The KGB didn't need to buy those outlets. They already had fellow travelers in charge. But I'm not sold on the need to ban TikTok privately. I'm not sold that that's not data that's out there from private brokers that Chi-Coms can get anyway, just as other people can get. We don't ban trips to China, which often result in stripping of information that is accessible. So I'm not sure I get why this is such a priority for Republicans.
I do. I mean, this fits right in to the Chinese strategy of they want to be the world's information superpower. So they're looking for every mechanism possible to vacuum up all the information in the universe, and TikTok is a prime instrument for that. And yeah, they could go and buy data, but it's way cooler when people just give you their data for free.
Yeah.
So I don't quite buy that argument. I will say, look, India banned TikTok and a whole bunch of other apps, and it's had zero negative impact on India. Zero. So I don't get why we just give the Chinese free running room and somehow think that that's just not going to encourage them to be more aggressive, more intrusive. So I'm actually with Gallagher. Gallagher's going to chair the the Congressional Special Committee on China. I think he's a great choice for that. I'm hoping he gets some issues. Matter of fact, I'm completely in the opposite on this one. To me, this was a no-brainer, and the fact that this wasn't done, 8 years ago, I just think is a stunning message to the Chinese. Like, we're not really serious about competing with you.
So, don't you think President Trump was right then when he said, "Oh, they're spying on us"? The Chinese are. Everyone.
Well, I mean, look, the U.S. intelligence community has said that. Right. I mean, everybody, there's lots of evidence that this company is run by the Chinese government, that they use it to collect information, and increasingly they're twerking the content to influence us. It's a fact. So
yeah, we're gonna have to debate this more because I have follow-ups to that. But I'm gonna give you the last word this time to make you feel better about your position.
Well, Christmas comes early for Lieutenant Colonel.
To me, this is where we should have been 4 years ago, which is having really serious debates about the hard questions. The problem is coming to dealing with China. We just kick all the hard questions down the road.
That's what we do. We do that on every topic. Yeah,
that's
what we do.
But this is like debating in 1945 whether we should respond to Pearl Harbor. We got to stop. We got to make the hard. I mean, I'm with you. Let's debate it and move on.
Yeah.
But we got to make the hard choices. We're going to allow these apps, or not. So just do it and move on. China, I mean, like I said, India did it, and it had no impact on them. So I don't think it's the end of the universe as we know it, but that's me.
Lieutenant Colonel Jim Carafano, thanks as always. Jim, Merry Christmas. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer
This is a full-blown 4-alarm holiday emergency here.
on AM 560.
We're going to have the happiest Christmas since Bing Crosby tap danced with Danny Kaye.
The Answer.
Oh, yeah. Hey, guys. This Christmas, give her the next best thing to wearing nothing at all. With soft, silky, naturally new pajamas available exclusively at Pajamagram. Sensuous and smooth. Naturally nude pajamas just feel like her soft skin. Even more alluring than lingerie, she'll love the feeling of wearing next to nothing at all. Order today, and Pajamagram will include a free matching naturally nude nightie. That's a 70